Thank you for joining my podcast. Thank you for listening, for your time and your attention. It's very much appreciated. This is episode 212, Blame. When you plant lettuce, if it does not grow well, you don't blame the lettuce. You look for reasons it's not doing well. It may need fertilizer, or more water, or less sun. You never blame the lettuce. Yet if we have problems with our friends or family, we blame the other person. But if we know how to take care of them, they will grow well, like the lettuce. Blaming has no positive effect at all, nor does trying to persuade using reason and argument. That is my experience. No blame, no reasoning, no argument, just understanding. If you understand, and you show that you understand, you can love, and the situation will change. This is by Thich Nhat Hanh, and I really like this quote for many reasons. First, it could have been another ending to my episode on mentorship yesterday. But because of that, it also makes a good intro to this episode. Because it raises the topic of blaming. And I could easily blame my mother for the challenges life has brought me. But that wasn't the purpose of that episode, nor is it what I believe I should do. And while I probably have mentioned in several episodes that blaming others doesn't help us move forward, this quote inspired me to make a full episode of this topic. Because at some point, we all blame. It comes natural. In our own mind, we did everything right. Or we were innocent. We had nothing to do with it. So it cannot possibly be our fault. Not blaming when we feel we are right is so hard. My mother, I can blame her for a lot. But what will that really do? What will it change? Recently, I spoke about instant gratification and how we often forgo long-term goals in favor of immediate satisfactions. I believe blaming is just another instant satisfaction. It comes easy to us. But lately, I've become very suspicious of everything that comes easy. And maybe that's exactly what we need to do more often. We need to question our default behaviors and our quick, moment-to-moment reactions. They often feel good in that very moment, but long-term, they're rather complicated. Blaming others for stuff is such a behavior. It may feel okay in the moment, but it adds no real value. I see 4 major problems with blaming. When you blame someone else, you give them all the responsibility to resolve the situation. You wash your hands and you don't do any work. I like to call this laziness. Often this happens in the mind and with small daily things. We may not always tell someone outright, it's your fault. It often is a mindset. You know, I like to use traffic as an example because 1, I'm a daily commuter, but 2, I'm indirectly confronted with other drivers and their behaviors without being able to really say anything. I'm in my little box on wheels and the only person I can reflect with on what just happened is myself. I so often blame others while driving. The reason the bridge is backed up because people change lanes all the time. The reason traffic doesn't flow is because the slow drivers are in the left lane. The person who just cut me off, and so forth. It is very easy to sit there and be frustrated about traffic while blaming everyone else. The not me mindset leads to expectations. We wait for someone else to say or do something. We expect the circumstances to change in our favor. We are in reactive mode, dependent on something outside of us. Expectations are tricky. You may think you're looking forward to something when you're really hoping something turns out a certain way. It's a fixation with a specific outcome, and it can really get us. Recently you heard how it got me. Expectations have you looking for something very specific. And while you're looking for that one thing, you tend to miss a range of other possible, maybe even better outcomes. Maybe the apology from your partner doesn't come with words, but in the form of a nice gesture. But if you're so consumed with the timing of when you're going to have your talk, you may miss the thought and effort put forth in something else. Unmet expectations lead to negative experiences. Frustration, anger, anxiety. We all experience these as a result of blame. I'm sure you've seen the drivers that step on the gas and drive like crazy, sticking their finger out and honking. Road rage. Someone going through a negative experience because they feel harm has been done to them. They blame someone for doing something. And as a result of blaming, they risk their life driving erratically. The thing about blaming is this. We assign the responsibility to someone else, yet we are the ones who suffer. When we don't experience what we hope, it ruins our day, not theirs. It sets our emotion into turmoil, brings our heart rate up and takes us out of balance, while everyone else moves on with their life. So to me, this seems illogical, and I've started to question myself when I do go through negative experiences. I ask, why am I feeling this way? What am I missing? When we blame someone for something, we hand them the power over our emotions and experiences. I like control, so I don't want to give up so easily anymore. And lastly, when we blame, we miss out on learning, on new experiences, on changes that could be for the better. Acquiring new knowledge requires an open mind, and when the mind is clouded by emotional upheavals, it's very hard to be open to change. But the simple pause I just suggested, when you notice you're having a bad day, when you're frustrated with someone else, when you seem stuck because someone is not pulling their weight, try to inquire and ask why. And when you do, don't allow the answer to be because of the other person or because of this and that situation. Search within yourself. What are you not seeing? What could be a different version of the story? What is it that you can do to change it? Learning begins when you show a desire to understand. As long as your energy goes into finger pointing, scapegoating, and denying responsibility, your mind will be closed. The easiest way to open your mind is always with a question. Remember, I love questions. I always say, questions open doors. They open doors with other people and with yourself. If a friend has an emotional reaction to something, you will ask them what's going on, right? But we so rarely ask ourselves. We simply accept what comes out of us and we don't take the time to inquire and learn. Blame gets in the way of effective problem solving. This applies to any situation where you blame. At work, with your loved ones, or with strangers. Sometimes we blame inanimate objects like the weather, the traffic, the washing machine, and so forth. We blame so we can avoid responsibility. Responsibility requires a deeper look at the situation. It may involve being flexible and open to change, an alternate solution. Taking responsibility requires some creativity and innovation, maybe even some risk-taking. All things that are not as easy as blaming. But on the quest for you, you'll find that the valuable lessons and the major steps in life are not easy. Listen to this quote by Rilke. If your daily life seems poor, do not blame it. Blame yourself. Tell yourself that you are not poet enough to call forth its riches. For to the Creator there is no poverty and no poor, indifferent place. A life full of rage, anger, frustration, anxious waiting for someone or something, that's a poor life. This is a life that misses out on the joy and the fun that this life is supposed to be. If you are living such emotions frequently, do what Rilke suggests. Look in the mirror and figure out what it is you need to change. Are you grasping onto something? Only your way counts. And is it really worth the suffering? Or could you be happy now if you decide to let it go and change your perspective? I encourage you to think about it. You are the creator of your life. Don't give anyone else that important responsibility. Much love.